Thanks, Jen. On the attempted murder of a Louisville mayoral candidate, the man who was charged with this was released on bail a couple days after this happened with the assistance of a bail fund group. Knowing that the vice president has in the past supported bail fund groups, what's the White House reaction to this case, and should there be restrictions on which cases these bail fund groups can help, given this is a attempted murder?
I would have to dig into this further, Jackie, and I'm happy to do that after the briefing.
The sanctions we've learned don't include SWIFT. They don't target energy, so the impacts to other countries are mitigated. You guys have attributed this cyber attack to Russia, and you're warning that the prospect of war is, or peace rather, is pretty dim. So at what point do you break away from the strategy, say it's not working, and do something else, impose some of these sanctions now?
Well, I think as we've talked about a little bit in here, our collective view from our national security team is that sanctions are meant to be a deterrent. They are not, if you put all of the sanctions in place now, what is stopping them from invading? Are they working? Well, again, Jackie, I think that's our assessment from the national security team, and you know, that we will continue to implement that strategy.
For people to die before implementing them in that case.
I think, Jackie, that's in no way a fair statement or accusation, I guess, if that's what that is. What we have done and what the president has done is unite countries around the world on a strong package that will be crippling to the Russian economy. And we have done that in a way where we have stood up for the territorial integrity of Ukraine and stood with our NATO partners and allies. It has always been up to President Putin and Russia to determine which path they were going to take. That has not changed, but that leadership on the world stage is what has led to a united front and united opposition to these actions. And I would also note that regardless of what decision President Putin decides to make, one of his intended objectives, I think, as we've seen out there, is to divide NATO. The opposite has happened, to divide maybe the United States and divide leadership in the United States. The opposite has happened. So if that was his objective, he's already not achieving that. Go ahead, Patsy.
A question on Iran. Earlier this week, more than 170 House Republicans wrote a letter to President Biden essentially saying that any new nuclear deals with Iran will meet the same fate as the 2015 JCPOA, meaning that the next Republican administration will just nullify it. Does the administration agree with this assessment, and are you concerned that this may create further complication in the talks in Vienna, which some are saying optimistically could wrap up in mere weeks?
Well, let me say first on the talks in Vienna, they continue to be in the 8th round. It's a long round, I guess we could say. We feel substantial progress has been made in the last week and is continuing to be made, but nothing is agreed to until everything is agreed. If Iran shows seriousness, we can and should reach an understanding on mutual return to full implementation of the JCPOA within days. Anything much beyond that would put the possibility of return to the deal at grave risk. While I'm not certainly going to predict or what it would look like in a future Republican administration, what I think is an important reminder to everyone, regardless of your political affiliation, is what happened over the last 4 years after the former president pulled out of the deal, which means we know what happened, which is we lost complete visibility into their capabilities. They made a significant amount of progress, leaving us at the point we are at today, and put us in a very difficult position in order, as we try to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. So regardless of your politics, hopefully people will factor that in as we look ahead.
To the letter?
I don't have any information on the letter.
On Afghanistan, just real quick.
Sure.
There's continued fighting between the Taliban and the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan, which Russia has offered to mediate. Do you have any reaction on both the conflict as well as Moscow's offer?
I'll check with our national security team and see if we can get more. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jen.